Time to go fabric shopping. Oh, I thought it would be cute to wear the black and white jumper to do the little intro-y bit, but it's way too hot and now I'm dying. Hi everybody and welcome back to the channel. I, like many people, have been watching season 2 of Wednesday. By the time this video comes out, part 1 has been out for a while and part 2 will be coming out in a few days, and I am looking forward to it. Yeah, no, as usual for me, this video is running late, so it is actually out now and I am going to relax and watch it after I upload this video. I feel like most people are going to be talking about Wednesday, which is understandable because name of the show, but for me it is all about Morticia. Her outfits this season so far have just been brilliant. Absolutely love them. I want to make everything. But in today's video, I am going to be making the black and red velvet dress from the first couple of episodes. Now, I did originally think that I could just use the pattern from the season 1 dress that I made and just make some little changes to it. But on closer inspection, i.e. screenshotting the dress and bumping up the brightness, there's some style lines in there that look to me like they are quite different and quite interesting as well, which will be fun to see if I can make that work. There is always the possibility that I'm completely off with these style lines because black velvet just absorbs light and makes it really hard to see the seams. But even if I'm wrong, I feel like I'll have still made an interesting dress. So let's talk about the pattern. Bumping up the brightness, it very much looks to me like the style lines go over the bust and then to a point at the waist and then out again. I might be wrong. Even if I am, it's going to be an interesting dress. So that is what I am working with. The back was going to be the easiest to work out, so I started off with that. First off by drawing in the shoulder area and then removing that because it does look like there are some seams separating the shoulder from the rest of the bodice. Once I had that sorted out, I drew myself a style line going from the armpit area to a point at the centre back, making sure that that line went through the top of the dart. Then I was able to just separate off the back, and then for the side back I was able to just remove that dart. For the front, I basically did exactly the same thing, except the front neckline I made into a bit more of a sweetheart neckline, and then withdrawing the line going into the point at the middle, I had to get rid of the waist dart and the bust dart. So I made sure to draw my line so it intersected both of those darts so I could just get rid of them. For the skirt portion, I basically did the same thing on the front and the back. The first thing I did was to make my 2 darts into 1 dart because that was going to be a lot easier to manage. And I started off with a point at the centre and then drew my curved line so that it intersected the dart again, and then just drew down as if it was princess seams. I also elongated the bottom and flared it out to make it into a little bit of a fishtail and made it a little bit longer at the back. For the back pieces, I was able to just leave it at that. Those were done. For the front, because there is that gathered section where the red bit pokes out, I did have to draw myself an entire front because it's going to be asymmetrical. I measured down to exactly where I wanted the slit to be, and then I drew 3 lines going from the left to the right, radiating and separating out on the right, because we want to open them up and add a bunch more fabric so that it can be gathered down. I did a similar thing on my right side front piece, where I drew my lines going from the right to the left of that piece, and then I opened it up on the left. The last thing I needed to do was to attach my side back bodice piece to my side back skirt piece, and then the side front bodice piece to the side front skirt piece. I hope that all made sense, and I hope the illustrations helped with that. For the sleeve, I basically just drew my regular sleeve and I added some kind of wing bits on the sides. This was very, very similar to the sleeve that I did on the original. I am going to be working with velvet, which sucks, but I have a walking foot, so I should be okay getting it through the machine. And for the red details, I'm basically just going to do the sleeves as a red lining, and I'm going to do like a triangle kind of godet bit in the skirt for that bit of red poking out. I'm fairly confident that this is going to work and I don't need to do a mock-up, famous last words, but it's stretch fabric, so I feel like if I do make a mistake, I should be okay. I'll have some wiggle room for correcting it. So let's start cutting out the fabric. Hi, it's the next day. It is quite warm again. I was going to lay out all the fabric and stuff yesterday, but then the other half came back and we ended up going for a little walk around the lake and stuff, and I saw a goth swan, and I am hoping that that is a good omen for this project. But fabric. I found a bunch of this velvet. There's a bit of fluff. I found a bunch of this velvet in a remnants bin because that is where I found most of the fabric, to be honest. It's got some stretch to it, which is going to be very useful. I am going to have to be very careful to make sure that I lay all the fabric pieces the same direction, because this does have a nap to it, you can feel it. The other fabric I have got is this. It was a choice between this or one that is really, really shiny, and I thought this one would look better. It's a little bit more subtle. I felt like the really shiny stuff looked a bit cheap, if you know what I mean, where this, although it is cheap, it doesn't look as cheap. If that makes sense. Okay, I have been playing a game of Tetris because I picked up 3 pieces of the velvet from the remnants bin. I probably should have checked the size of them before just going, yeah, that'll be fine, because 2 of the pieces are quite a bit smaller than I thought they were going to be. I'm going to see if I can take advantage of the fact that 2 of them were cut slightly on the wonk, by kind of folding part of it in half, like just half of it to do one piece. And yeah, luckily the very front piece is all in one piece anyway, so I can have that flat. The back piece does need to be on the fold. This is what I've done. So I folded this piece sort of half in half, and this is a bit that's a little bit on the wonk. So I've got a wider bit here where the flared part of the skirt can go, and then towards the end it goes a bit thinner. I have discovered as well that because of the way this, wow, my nails have gone kind of grey from handling this fabric. Yeah, that's something to bear in mind for when I'm doing my reveal and stuff. They've been cut in lengths of like, 2 of them have been cut in lengths of like 1 metre or so, which is a bit annoying. So I'm going to have to do them on the cross grain. Luckily, that should fix the nap issue, and I'll be able to have pieces going in different orientations, because the nap is going in this direction and it's not going to make much difference if I'm using the cross grain. Hopefully. So yeah, I am going to see if I can Tetris this. Hopefully I can, because I'm not going to Liverpool again. My friend took me to Liverpool to get this fabric, and I'm not sure how much she'd be up for doing another trip for a single bit of velvet because I miscalculated. I've been trying to Tetris these pieces and I've been thinking, why haven't I got enough fabric for this? What's going on? Some of the pieces are only supposed to be single. They're not supposed to be doubled up because I've got two separate side front pieces. It's only the back that needs to be cut on a fold and then the side back that needs to be doubled. The rest are just individual pieces. It's hot. I think I can do this now. I got up at like 2:30 in the morning thinking, I feel like I've made a mistake. And I couldn't get that thought out of my head that I'd made a mistake. The thing is, when you are making a garment that has got a feature on one side, you need to pay very close attention to which way round you're putting your pattern pieces on the fabric. I did the front piece the wrong way. I think I might be able to fix it. I've got two options. Either way, I'm going to have to do some piecing. I'm hoping I can take advantage of the pile on the velvet and hide the seam a bit. I'm going to do a test and just see how that's going to work. Either I'm going to have to use this bit of fabric and flip the pattern piece over, obviously, like it's supposed to be, and pull it down until this bit, it probably end up being like around here or something, and then just adding a bit on the bottom. If I end up needing to pull it too far down in order to get the correct shape and I'm losing too much off the bottom of that piece, then I might have to use the back piece to make a new front piece and then use that as the back piece and do like an inserted bit, and it's not going to be as noticeable because it's the back. I feel like such an idiot. I can't believe I did that. Especially when I knew I had like such a small amount of fabric. But we're going to make do. We're going to make do. I'm going to see if I can fix this. Like I say, I'm going to do some little tests and just see how invisible I can make a seam. If I only need to add, say, 1.5 inches or something to the bottom, then potentially I can hide that as the hem. But we'll see. I feel like, oh, I cannot believe I did that. Okay, so I can't use the back piece because it is quite a different shape, which is annoying. The front piece, scooching it down enough to get the right angle and stuff, I am losing about 4.5 inches, which is not ideal. I have done a test though, And these two are, yeah, these two are stitching it, and they're very, very visible. This one is using some mending tape, and yeah, in certain lights you can see the line, and I'm wondering if there is a way I might even be able to hide that a little bit more with some careful cutting. But in some lights, that is basically invisible. So I am thinking I'm going to go with the mending tape Wonder Web stuff. Apart from that little hiccup though, it should go together reasonably quickly. I'm going to start with the back. I'm going to do the vast majority of it on the overlocker because I want to keep that stretch. But for now, I'm going to have a nap because I've been up most of the night trying to work out this problem. Oh, it's a bit cooler today, which I like. I'm definitely ready for it to be autumn now. I'm an autumn person. I don't like it when it's too hot. It's one of them, when it's a bit chilly, you can just put something on. If it's too hot, there's nothing you can really do. You can't take your skin off. Well, you could, but I wouldn't recommend it. It would probably hurt and it'd freak people out a little bit. I have successfully attached everything with the overlocker apart from the centre back piece and the centre front piece, which are here and here. I have overlocked those, even though this fabric doesn't really need it, just to give it a bit of extra stability, really. I did do a try on, just with it pinned together, and I feel like I can probably take the side seams in, like up to the waist sort of thing, in a bit. So I'm going to do that on the machine. I'm not going to unpick the overlocking. That is energy better spent with other things. One thing that I did notice is, remember when I said that because I was putting the pattern pieces out on the cross grain, so I didn't need to worry about the direction of the pile? I did. There is one singular bit that I put the opposite way round. It's the centre back and you can see that it is a slightly different like shade than everything else, but at least it is the centre back piece, so that being a bit of a standout, it's not the end of the world. So my job now, because I've sewn this together so it's all flat, and then the side front on the right side is open, I'm going to attach the centre front and centre back pieces first. I'm going to do that on the sewing machine with the walking foot. I'll do a little test first just to see how well it's going to go through. Then I will stitch up the side front seam up to where it needs to start being gathered, and then I'm going to gather it by hand because I do not trust trying to do a gathering stitch on this fabric on the machine. After that, it's going to be putting the red panel in. I'm going to do that on the overlocker because it's going to sew it in and finish the edges at the same time. So save a bit of time. The sleeves, I'm going to show you what I did with the sleeves actually. Right, so this is one of the sleeves. So have it like that, and then we have that long bit. But that's going to give me a seam running down this bit here, which in the red is going to look kind of ugly. So what I did was I cut the top bit of the pattern off. So I've got that bit in red that's just this bit. And then for the bottom bit that was like that sort of shape, I split it down the middle, twisted it and joined it so that the bit coming down here doesn't have a seam, and it will be a seam here instead. And that is what that looks like. So hopefully when I put all that together, it's gonna look nice and neat. Okay, I've just gathered this down and my math isn't mathing. I've just realised that I made a mistake. Another one. Don't make patterns when you're half asleep. This 4 inches is gathered down to about 1 inch. That means I've got 1 inch worth of fabric that I don't want. So what I need to do is I need to extend my gathering for another inch, so that, because another inch worth of gathering isn't going to add that much to this, just so that the length at the bottom ends up being right and I've not added 1 inch to it, if that makes sense. Because when I opened up the pattern at the side to add in for the gathering, I didn't take into account the actual gathered part. Okay, so dress is nearly done. Sleeves are on, lining is in. Only things I've got to do now are I've got to hem it, do the facings. There's a little detail here which I'm not sure if this is like a seam and it goes into a point and then goes off and then I can't see the rest of that seam, or if it's just like a little detail. I am treating it as just a little detail, purely because I couldn't figure out patterning that if it was like an actual like style line. It's going to be a lot easier to just do it as a little detail, and it just covers up the seam where the gathering is and makes it look a little bit nicer. The other thing that I need to figure out is I did do a try on and the sleeves keep falling off the shoulders. That is because it's a low neckline on both the front and the back, and the sleeves are quite heavy. I'm pretty sure in the original the shoulders are either attached to her bra or they're taped in some way, because after trying this on, there's no way that's staying on the shoulders. I'm thinking what I might try, because like I say, I've got to do the facing anyway. I might put a little bit of elastic and just have that kind of enclosed, like I'll attach it to the seam allowance on like the facing and that bit, just so it's not visible. And I'm hoping that will keep the sleeves up. If it doesn't, then I will make it so that it can be attached to a bra, and hopefully that will be okay. But yeah, I am pretty confident that I am definitely going to get this completed today because there's only a couple of things left to do. Why? Why would you say that? You've just set back this project so much by uttering those words. With the facings, the first one I made, I did have a little bit of trouble with the facings kind of flapping out and stuff and not behaving themselves. This time, for the front, because of this detail, I'm pretty sure on the actual dress, they're style lines. It's a separate bust area that's been cut, but I couldn't brain. So what I'm gonna do is I am going to sew those lines attaching the facing to the main fabric. It'll give it a little bit more stability and it will stop the facing from trying to flip out. That's an idea that I only had a couple of days ago. I did originally do the facing like this, but I can use the pattern from this one and just extend it down. So that is the plan. Let's get to it. Right, I cut out my new pieces. I realised that the velvet is probably going to be a bit too bulky. I also didn't quite have enough to do 2 sets. So I've got my front, and I did cut out a new back piece as well, just so I could make the shoulders a little bit wider, and also so it's in the same fabric. This has got some stretch to it as well, which is going to make it match quite nicely with the stretch of the velvet. I am thinking I might have to brave the outdoors though, purely because it is forecast to be absolutely chucking it down for most of the day. So I think try and get out now. But yes, I am going to get some supplies in and then I'm going to get these facings on. Okay, I've got the dress on inside out, just because I need to pin down this facing piece, so I know exactly where I'm stitching along this section. Shoulders, I put the elastic in, it's sort of holding. I'm not 100% on how secure it is, so I am going to put some little things in to attach it to my bra as well, just for that extra bit of security. Thing that I've got to do now though is get it off, and this is stretch velvet. It's not the easiest thing to actually pull off. So yeah, if you don't hear from me in like a month, it's because it's taken me that long to get out of the inside out dress. Right, I've brightened this up as much as I can because obviously black fabric. But I did something. And again, my nails, it's dye, it's not dirt. But yeah, I did something, and I know it sounds silly because I'm so close to finishing, but I wasn't happy with the gathered bit at the front. I felt like it looked too small, and I felt like the bit that I added looked a bit bulky and a bit rubbish. So what I have done is I have unpicked it all. I've made it much bigger, and I cut into the side piece. So we've got this new little flappy bit here that I've cut shorter than this bit. So I'm going to put gathering stitches in there, gathering stitches in there, and then that can all gather into this, and then hopefully that will match the image better. I hope. Okay, so it's been a few days since I last did anything on this. I crashed quite hard. I've been crashing a lot more recently, ever since I got ill a few months ago. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's being looked into. It's all good. Dress-wise, I have attached some ribbon with some poppers on so that I can attach the shoulders to my bra straps and hopefully stop them from falling down. The other thing I have done is I've just done a little hand-stitched rolled hem on this bit, just because I was a bit worried about it going through the machine. I have broken my sewing machine. I'm not entirely sure how, but the metal plate has snapped. It's still usable, but I'm noticing fabric getting caught a little bit, so I've just got to be careful. And with this, I didn't want to risk it getting snagged and stuff on it. I have looked and I found one singular shop that sells the plate for my machine, and they don't have one. So yeah, I'm not entirely sure what I'm going to do there. But the only thing I need to do now on this is the hem on the velvet. Because of the train on the back, I can't really just do a rolled hem, just because it's got like a big curvy bit like that where the train is. So we're going to do a bias binding hem on that. But once that one thing is done, we can finally do the reveal. I filmed this entire reveal and the outro the other day, and it was all out of focus. It's been one of those projects. I'm so pleased with how this has turned out. Seriously, guys, I am over the moon with how this looks. I'd say like 90% of the little changes that I made worked. The only ones that didn't, I would say, are the sleeves. I feel like the lining ended up being a little bit baggy, and I think if I had kept that seam going down the inside, I would have been able to tack it to the seam allowance of the velvet, and that would make it sit a little bit nicer. But other than that, I'm really pleased. The little snaps that I put in to attach the shoulders to my bra straps worked wonders. They're not moving for anything, which is brilliant. And I'm so glad I made that little change to the gathered bit at the front, just above the red. It looked a bit rubbish the way I had it before. The gathering was too small of a section. I'm very glad that I opened it up, made it wider. The only thing is, because I didn't pattern that in, I just cut into the fabric and added the gathering there. It does want to kind of swivel a little bit because the seam allowance on one side is smaller than the other. So that could theoretically be corrected by just sewing the other side a little bit further in. I do have some wiggle room in this around the kind of hip area, so theoretically I could do that. The little bit that I had to piece in at the bottom, at the front, to be honest, I don't really notice it. It's only really catching in certain lights, and I am absolutely fine with that. I think this is a solid Halloween costume version of the dress. It's not perfect, but I think it's got the right feel to it, definitely. It was also fun getting to experiment with this, playing around with style lines and stuff. The kind of cross bit in the middle is something that I've never done before, and I don't think I've seen anywhere before, so it was fun trying to get that to work. Despite all the little hiccups along the way and things getting in the way of me being able to complete it, I am so pleased with the final result. I really, really am. And I definitely want to make some more Morticia outfits. Thank you very much for watching. Doing all the little YouTubey things would be very much appreciated. Like, comment, share. YouTube is saying that you might enjoy this video next, and I will see you next time. Bye!